95% of startup sportswear brands die within the first year. There are a lot of nuanced reasons as to why brands fail. I want to help you guys so that you can avoid these same pitfalls that a lot of brands that I've seen. Well, my name is Shadi. I'm the co-founder and creative director of FittDesign, the world's first sportswear fashion design agency. What are the common pitfalls that I see? That's exactly what I'm going to be discussing in today's episode. Reason number one is that a lot of brands, when they're coming in, they just focus so much on innovation as opposed to looking at the market for proven demand. You forget that customers actually buy products to solve real problems. So what's the solution to this? Instead of focusing on pure innovation for innovation's sake, look at market segments where you can enter with proven products that already have a track record that you can innovate on in terms of some of the missing core points. Look at things like basic seamless items, leggings, sports bras, tank tops, and look at what most customers are saying that they don't like about those products from your top competitors and innovate there. Number two is that brands do not actually design a product for real world scenarios. They use hypothetical equations and they use hypothetical scenarios to try to estimate what customers would want and what and how they might use a product. A good example of this is, let's just say you're designing a legging for yoga. And what you don't understand is that yes, yoga requires the legging to be quite soft, quite supple, and to move with your body. But what you might not realize is that that legging also needs to be used outside of the gym. That's how understanding the actual use case scenarios of your customer and how they're going to engage and interact with your product and in what ways they're going to want the product to perform and function, as opposed to just hypothesizing, goes a super long way towards creating an effective product category that drives sales. Reason number three is that brands focus on acquisition instead of customer retention. They put so much time and resources into their initial product development and their go-to-market strategy. Now that I made my initial set of sales, I don't have any more product to sell customers. And this presents a challenge because as a startup business, you need cash flow. You not only need to have the strategies to get that cash flow in, but you need to have the things that customers actually want to buy. As a rule of thumb, you should aim for at least a 30 to 40% customer retention rate. You need to let them know that they can rebuy from you. You need to keep yourself top of mind. Number four, that most brands fail is because of inefficient supply chain errors and hidden cost leakage. What does this mean? This is the prime example of the brand that is trying to go for the cheapest possible factory that's going to give them the cheapest possible price with the lowest possible minimum order quantity. But when it actually comes time to deliver the product, they take too long, which means you end up with no product for cash flow. You end up having to resample many times, which sometimes you have to pay for, which ends up with more cash invested. At the same time, when you do receive the product, there's quality control issues. Half the products you can't sell, you have to throw away, you have no recourse, all because you tried to save a couple of bucks. This is a prime example of how not properly tracking your cost of goods sold throughout the entire process goes a long way. Reason number five is that you're completely neglecting pricing strategy. You're selling based on price, not based on value. And the advantage or the disadvantage when you try to scale and to compete based on price is that there'll always be a bigger shark. So a pro tip here is to set prices strategically to signal quality. I like to avoid odd numbers altogether. At the same time, I like to avoid decimal points. If you look at brands like Lululemon, they actually end up pricing at like 120. They price at whole round numbers. This can also be a very effective way to price correctly. Number six is that you're forgetting the emotional and identity aspects of selling your products. Just because sportswear has a functional core component to it doesn't mean that you just drive your sales based on the features of the composition. Those are nice details to have, but when you lead with that, what you end up with is a lack of an emotional connection with customers. And when you fail to connect with your customers emotionally by getting them to understand where the value of your products is, that's where you lose them. That's how you get customers emotionally invested to get them to buy into your vision and then to buy into your products. Reason number seven is that they have a failure to identify seasonal trends and trend life cycles in general. This is the prime example of the company that doesn't know what it's doing when it comes to manufacturing, and it designs and develops a winter collection. And because of a lack of ability to manage their supplier correctly and not being able to get their designs in place on time, they end up launching their winter collection during the middle of August. This is a prime example of not knowing how to track your seasons correctly. My best recommendation would be set up an Excel file, create a timeline, add buffer time, It's always good to give yourself a little bit more time for your design development so that you can launch within the time frame that you've set. If you're launching a winter collection, you want to launch during the beginning of winter to maximize the life cycle of those products. You neither want to launch during the middle of winter where it might be already people have fatigue, or the end of winter where people are already thinking about these spring summer collections. Reason number 8 is that brands just fail to look at the data that they have and use that data effectively. You should always be tracking things like your customer lifetime value, how much a customer is buying from you within a specific period of time, the average order value. Are they buying more than one item? Are they buying a lot of items? Failure to track these metrics correctly leads to you not understanding where you can maximize more profit, where you can get customers to come back. So if there's an issue with your retention, you should have the data that shows you that you're underneath at 30 to 40%, which is the optimal rate for customer retention that you want to be at. And then using actual skills to increase that retention. 95% of sportswear brands fail within the first year. And now you know what to look for when it comes to these hidden kisses of death that you can avoid so that you can give your brand the best possible chance to succeed. If you or anyone you know fears that you might be suffering from some of these issues and you want a quick and immediate fix on how to overcome it, or whether you're a new brand and you want to make sure that you don't fall into these common pitfalls, you can check the link in the description, and I have a link for you to apply to work with me one-on-one online consultation call. My slots are limited, but I'd be more than happy to review your application and to see how we can get you booked in with me ASAP. Guys, I say this from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fit Design TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.